DeepSeek is the new king now. It gained 125% return in just 9 days, making more than GPT-5 and Gemini 2.5 Pro combined. So most of the models are losing money, but DeepSeek has made money. Good morning, everybody, and this is AI with Kyle. I'm going to be running through the latest AI news and updates of the day. We have a few pieces of news from today. Big one, definitely the big one, is going to be OpenAI. They have completed their conversion to a for-profit business. So they are now a for-profit business, something they've been legally trying to work out for the last couple of years. That has now been completed. So restructuring has paved the way for ChatGPT to easily raise capital and to profit off its AI technology. Previously, they had caps on how much profit they could make. They were not for profit. They were not a charity, but they were some weird kind of pseudo structure that allowed them to make profit, but only up to a certain amount. And then even then they had to share their profit with Microsoft. They obviously are trying to get rid of those shackles and to build into one of the largest companies on earth. Part of this is becoming a for-profit company, something that Elon Musk in particular has been incredibly anti. It has been done though. OpenAI said on Tuesday it had converted its main business into a for-profit corporation, the conclusion of a lengthy and fraught legal saga. A crucial regulator, Kathy Jennings, the Delaware Attorney General, said she approved the plan for the startup, which began as a non-profit in 2015, to change to a public benefit corporation, which is a type of for-profit entity that expresses commitment to bettering society. I'd love to know the details of that, so let's have a look. The company also said it had reorganized its ownership structure and signed a new agreement with its longtime backer Microsoft, here we go, that gives the software giant roughly 27% stake in OpenAI's new for-profit corporation, but changes some of the details of their close partnership. OpenAI was valued at $500 billion under the terms of the deal, making Microsoft's stake worth more than $100 billion. So previously, Microsoft helped them with investment, and in exchange, Microsoft was eligible. It had the option for 49%, I think it was 49% of OpenAI's profits. Let me check that though, because I want to be 100% certain about that. Something that they didn't actually exercise because OpenAI was not generating a profit and probably won't for multiple years. But 49% of profits were applicable to Microsoft. Here we go. Yeah, 49%. The economic interest in OpenAI's profit, but did not represent a traditional ownership stake. So now they have a more traditional 27% stake in OpenAI. So it's a shift for Microsoft. So I guess the question here is, does this make Microsoft and OpenAI more tightly connected, or is this them pulling apart? Over the last few months, we've seen basically OpenAI moving in directions away from Microsoft, so teaming up with Oracle, for example, for cloud services. And we've also seen Microsoft launch their own products, things like, which we saw a few days ago, the name of their AI itself, which is escaping me, Microsoft AI, which is not available publicly, but it shows a shift moving away from OpenAI. So we'll see. This is just a new step in that relationship. I'm sure Elon Musk is furious about all of this because he's been fighting the for-profit structuring of OpenAI for years. So I'm sure he's very annoyed. The restructuring paves the way for the ChatGPT maker to more easily raise capital and profit off its artificial intelligence technology, even if it remains technically under the control of its original non-profit entity. Okay, so let me pull up the ChatGPT org chart, because it's incredibly confusing, and it's going to be even more confusing as of yesterday. Somebody's going to need to update this chart. Let me see if I can find it. There we go, Bloomberg. What I'm showing on screen, if you're on YouTube or watching later, is a diagram of the kind of holding structure of OpenAI and all of the different parts and how it connects. This has now changed because it is a for-profit organization. You can see it was already pretty complicated. We're going to have to see what the ramifications of the new for-profit shifting are going to be. It looks like the main business has been converted into a for-profit. The main business itself is OpenAI Inc., this one here, which has been converted into a for-profit, which owns OpenAI GP LLC, which controls OpenAI Global LLC. It's a whole mess, and all of this is going to have to be disentangled after the fallout of this new restructuring. I'm sure a lot of lawyers are getting paid a good amount of money to do this. I'm going to put this in the newsletter article, and we're going to be hearing about this for the rest of the week, I'm sure. The main takeaway from this is that they have pushed away from their original mission, which was to be open, it was to be non-profit, purely for the benefit of humanity. That's not really the case anymore. They have seen there's a lot of money to be potentially made here. In order to raise more money, to reach those goals, you need to incentivize investors. The only way to incentivize those investors is to run this as a for-profit company so that the investors can get a return on their investment later. Yes, potentially that can be aligned with the morality of building AI for the rest of humanity. It also introduces a lot of stakeholder interests. There's a lot of people who are going to be pouring money into OpenAI, and I'm sure they are preparing the way to go public as well, to do an IPO. That mission, even if it is true that they want to be for the good of humanity, is going to become increasingly difficult to do when you have many stakeholders, many shareholders. So it is worrying on that fact, but I don't think it's that surprising. And anyone who is screaming that they can't do this and how dare they hasn't really been paying attention, because they've been preparing the groundwork for this for the last couple of years. Awesome. And I have this camera that follows me around, which is very useful. Let's have a look at an article that came out a couple of days ago, worth looking at in detail, talking about how consulting companies are about to have their Kodak moment. The context here is that Kodak actually invented and had the patents for digital cameras. They were the ones who came up with the technology, and they realized this is going to destroy our traditional business, which was chemical processing of photos. So we are going to sit on this patent. We are not going to build technology. We're not going to show competitors. We're not going to show the rest of the world what it is we could do with this. Instead, we're going to sit on this technology and hope nobody else works it out. Didn't work very well for them. So Kodak went from being a gigantic company to being what is now a much more niche company who do mainly chemical work. They sat on a technology which they knew would destroy their core business, and instead of cannibalizing their core business, they decided to hope for the best, and it did not work for them. This article from Reuters is arguing that consultants are facing a similar. Management consultants are getting closer to their Kodak moment. Accenture made their mark by charging corporate clients way less than what they would have had to pay to provide IT, cyber protection, and call centers themselves. Artificial intelligence is making the $1 trillion industry dynamics look problematically like that of the camera giant that famously filed for bankruptcy protection in 2012. That's Kodak, after having its lunch eaten by digital competition. As the AI boom develops, consultants are in a tricky spot, yes. The pandemic, inflation, and economic uncertainty have encouraged many of their big clients to tighten expenditure. The US government, one of the biggest spenders, has been cancelling billion-dollar contracts in an effort to conserve cash. And in March 10 of the largest, that's my birthday, so maybe that's why I fixated on it. In March, 10 of the largest consultants, including Deloitte, Accenture, Booz, Allen Hamilton, and IBM, are targeted by the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, to justify their fees. And as a result, the largest listed players' shares have collapsed by up to 30% in the past 2 years, against the S&P 500's jump of 50%. I wanted to pull up a chart of that. Over the last couple of years, consultancy companies have been absolutely hammered. And even in the last year or so, Accenture is down 30%, Booz Allen Hamilton is down 52%, Capgemini down 26%, FTI 17%, and Gartner down 50%. That's in about a year to date, which is they're in a lot of trouble. And some of this is going to do with AI, some of it will be to do with Doge, but they are overall, as an industry, facing potential extinction. AI is in some respects a boon. In September, Accenture said that it helped cut 11,000 jobs, and CEO Julie Sweeney is set to augment that with staff that cannot be retrained. So just last month, they talked about people who were basically not getting on board of artificial intelligence. They could not be trained how to use AI. They were being let go because they could not be retrained, which always made me wonder, like, what exactly were you trying to train them in? If you were just giving them basic prompt training and they couldn't manage that, then what caliber of people had you hired in the first place? Because this stuff is not rocket science. So to cut 11,000 people and say it's because they couldn't be trained to use AI, I find very bizarre. I imagine this is also because they overhired and they are using artificial intelligence as an excuse to lay off headcount, which a lot of businesses are doing right now. It's a good way to downsize without admitting that there are problems at the company. You can say we're downsizing because we have additional efficiencies within the company because of artificial intelligence, and therefore we can let go of these workers, instead of we need to downsize because we're not doing very well and we can't afford to pay them. That is a negative reason, whereas AI is a more positive reason. Salesforce recently laid off 4,000 customer support workers, and Microsoft has halted hiring its consultancy business. Microsoft laid off 9,000 people. Here we go. This is the crux of it though. Unfortunately, big clients are cottoning onto the advantages too. One finance chief of a large UK company outlined the issue for breaking views via an illustrative example. Say an outsourced project costs the client $1 million to do themselves, and Accenture and they'll have historically been able to do the same job for $200,000. With the advent of machine learning, AI, companies can now do that same work for $10,000. People are increasingly relying on artificial intelligence to do the work that consultants would have done previously. It does not matter if the AI does as good a job as the consultant. As long as the people who are writing the checks think the AI is good enough, that is going to hurt the consulting industry. So this means there is a demand decrease for consultancy services because you can now ask AI, you can use AI as a team of skilled experts, and you do not necessarily need to hire people to do that work for you. Big problem. So this gives the clients considerable leverage. If consultants won't lower their prices to the relevant level, the client will find one that will, or just do the job itself. As we found out a couple of weeks ago, the consultancy companies are using artificial intelligence. Deloitte put together a report, gave it to the Australian government, charged them 144,000 Australian dollars. It was full of AI hallucinations, made up citations, made up a particular academic that people then track down and find did not actually work at the University of Sydney. Complete mess. This brings up the question in the client's mind of, if Deloitte, Accenture, McKinsey are using artificial intelligence to put these reports together, why am I paying them $100,000? It makes zero sense. So I think because of all of this, they're in a lot of trouble. However, I think there is something that this article is missing, which is one of the reasons you hire consultancies, one of the reasons you hire an advisory firm is CYA insurance. If I am a managing director, if I'm higher up and I have a project that I need to get done within my organization, if I put forward the ideas, if I use my own team, if I use my own budget, then it's my arse that is on the line when it comes to whether or not that project goes well. If that project goes poorly, then potentially I lose my job. So I'd much rather spend my company's money hiring a consultant who can then take the fall. It is cover your ass insurance. With a consultant, you can bring a consultant in, you can pay them their fee. If the project does not go well, you can say, oh, it's Accenture's problem, it's Deloitte's problem, it's not my problem as the MD of this company. I'm not taking any responsibility for this. I can blame them. If the project goes well and the consultants deliver, I, as the MD, the person who commissioned this project, can say, yeah, I did a great job and I can take all of the accolades. This is a subtle but really important reason why people, while companies, while individuals will actually contract consultants, cover their own asses and to shift blame and to shift responsibility onto these groups instead of onto themselves. So that's going to be still in play. Whether or not that's enough to save the consulting industry, I really doubt. I think as the AIs get better and better and companies become better trained in how to use artificial intelligence, then increasingly the services that consultants and advisors are providing will become very narrow. The fact that the consultants and advisors are rushing to use AI as much as possible, that only helps to speed up closing that gap. Because if I'm not paying for human advice anyway, I'm just going to set up my own artificial intelligence. So I don't think it's a good time to be in the consulting industry. Sorry to my friends who are. Hopefully you're not watching. But I think it's going to be a rough couple of years, and we're already seeing the beginnings of that. Paint Mixing says, it sounds like bad training, not people. Do you mean for Deloitte specifically? It was bad training, basically. With Deloitte, with the 144,000 Australian dollar report, they just didn't sense check it. They got stuff out of AI, stuck it in a report, sent it to the Australian government and charged 144,000. without checking it through, which anyone who uses AI on any kind of regular basis knows you don't do that. Make sure you're checking these citations. You use AI for the ideation process to help you structure, you get it to interview you, you can use it to orchestrate the process, but you still need to check absolutely everything that it's doing. You need to do that final 20-30%, and they did not. It looks like they just published it, which is a training problem, not even an AI problem. Anyone who knows how to use AI properly wouldn't have done it like that. If they'd used AI properly, if they'd used deep research modes, if they had used AI to check on the AI, they could have got a much better result from it. But instead, I think they probably just used ChatGPT, got some citations and stuck it in the mail, which is a human problem. Definitely a human problem. What is this? Speaking of consulting, yeah, let's have a look at this. Consulting and enterprise use of artificial intelligence. We just got news that Anthropic, the creators of Claude, have overtaken OpenAI in the enterprise large-scale model API market share. So there's a lot of gobbledygook there. So enterprises, big businesses, you and I as individuals, we are not using enterprise plans, we're using personal plans, maybe team plans. But enterprises are when a company will buy 1,000 seats. So they'll buy 1,000 access points to OpenAI or to Anthropic. And then this one in particular is about the API. This is when I am building a piece of software and I want to hook that piece of software to Claude or to ChatGPT. I don't do it through my actual account, but through the API, which allows my piece of software to talk to the OpenAI servers and to send information back and forward. So when you're starting to build and develop using artificial intelligence, most of the time you're going to be using the API and you pay per usage. Every time you send a message, you pay a tiny amount, at $0.0001, and then it comes back and you pay a little bit more. But that can stack up because it's an enterprise user who is sending tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of messages per day. So for the first time, Anthropic, the creators of Claude, have overtaken OpenAI as the API, as the enterprise API model of choice. They are sitting at probably 32%, whereas OpenAI has dropped below 30%. It used to be 50% OpenAI back in 2023. Over time, Anthropic and Google have started to eat OpenAI's lunch. Meta was also in play, but is decreasing because people realize the Meta model is not very good. So it's been Google and Anthropic who have been taking market share from OpenAI. And for the first time ever, Anthropic, Claude has overtaken OpenAI, which is a big shift. This is how AI companies actually make money. It's not just from our subscriptions, but from businesses using their models. It's a very solid way to make money, and Claude are now winning this race. Interestingly though, if you look at the chart, you can see Anthropic going up and up, but then it's slowing down a bit, whereas Google is going up and it seems to be accelerating. So I would love to see what this looks like next year. I have the feeling that Google is going to sneak up and start to eat everybody's lunch because so many organizations are already inside of the Google ecosystem, and Gemini is pretty good. And people are waking up to the fact that Gemini is good. We will probably have Gemini 3 shortly. It's been rumored for weeks now. When we have that, will be the next step up. We might see this really begin to accelerate. I've been using it personally in AI Studio. Google AI Studio Build is basically a vibe coding tool that Google have put together that they didn't really tell anyone about. There's been very little fanfare. It's a very good tool if you want to build within the Google ecosystem. It's tricky to find. Let me put it up. So AI Studio, I'm not sure if I'm logged in here either. If you look up AI Studio Build, I'm not logged in on this computer. Oh, yes I am. Their interface is terrible. Google aren't very good at aistudio.google.com/apps. It's basically a free vibe coding tool. So it's like Lovable, it's like Bolt, it's like Replete, but it is free. And then when you start to scale it up and use their API, that's what you pay for. So very cool. They have not marketed it, nobody knows about it, so I wanted to make sure you are aware of it. Coming back to Claude though, this is exciting for some people, less for me, but there is now an integration with Excel, a full integration, as well as a slew of new integrations with financial service providers and with skills connected to finance jobs. So if you work in finance, You probably already know about this, or if you do anything financial in your day-to-day work, definitely check this out. Claude has done a big push towards being helpful for finance. We're expanding Claude for financial services with an Excel add-in, additional connectors for real-time market data and portfolio analytics, and new pre-built agent skills like building discounted cash flow models, DCF, and initiating coverage reports. These updates build on its 4.5 state-of-the-art performance on financial tasks. They top the finance agent benchmark at 55% accuracy. It's not great, but the best apparently. They augment Claude's intelligence with solutions for time-consuming but crucial financial work built into preferred industry tools. So yeah, there's now add-in which goes directly into Excel, so Claude can read your charts and take action within the charts, which is important. Previously, you'd have to upload your Excels into Claude, ask it about stuff, and it may or may not be able to edit those files. You could do it through Google Workspace, but it was a bit of a faff. Now it's going to do it directly inside Excel, which is very exciting. It gives full transparency about the actions it takes, tracks and explains its changes, and lets users navigate directly to the cells it references. Oh, that's cool. So you can click inside of your chat on the cell that is referenced and it will go to it in the chart. Very, very cool. For the people who use Excel, definitely check this out. This is probably very exciting because Excel and spreadsheet AIs have been a bit lackluster for the last couple of years. So this is a big shift. They have also created a bunch of connectors. So you'll be able to connect to S&P Capital. Oh no, these are older ones. You can now connect to ERA, Third Bridge, Chronograph, Ignite, LSEG, Moody's, and MT Newswire. You can pull in all of this financial data, including news, crunch it using Claude and use that potentially to predict stock market, for example. Speaking of the stock market, actually, let me pull this up. So I saw an interesting example about people running bots to trade on the stock market. And right now, DeepSeek is winning. DeepSeek is currently the best model for trading the stock market, which I don't think anyone was expecting. So this is a guy called Yu Qianjin. DeepSeek is the new king now. It gained 125% return in just 9 days, making more than ChatGPT or GPT-5 and Gemini 2.5 Pro lost combined. So most of the models are losing money, but DeepSeek has made money. So it looks like, what's that second one? That's Qwen. That's very interesting. So GPT-5 and Gemini did terribly as trading bots. Claude, Grok, and I can't see what that one is. I'm not sure what that last one is. Oh, I think it's just buying Bitcoin and holding it. Did slightly better than the market. And Qwen and DeepSeek have done very well and actually made a good amount of money. So they all started with $10,000 and DeepSeek has made, it's up to $22,500 and Qwen is at $20,700. So they've doubled their money in 9 days. They've done very well. With connectors for Claude, the ability to pull in more data, you could potentially build a more sophisticated trading bot. This is not me recommending you do this, by the way, but if this is your world, this kind of stuff is very exciting. And finally, Claude has added in a number of agent skills. So skills released again with very little fanfare last week, which are little playbooks basically that you can provide to Claude inside chat, inside projects, inside the API, which contain instructions which are only opened and read and used when relevant. So they've built a comparable company analysis. Oh, that's very cool. A discounted cash flow model, DCF, due diligence data packs, processing data room documents into Excel spreadsheets and financial information, company teasers and profiles, earning analyses, and initiating coverage reports of industry analysis, company deep dives, and valuation frameworks. Right now, I'm thinking about acquiring other companies. I want to acquire some micro SaaS, some products that people have been building. So going out and finding people who've built something, started to generate revenue, and then putting in an offer and purchasing that company from them could be extremely useful. If you're in the finance industry, you probably know about this stuff already. If not, make sure you go and check it out. Cool, this is all extra stuff. I'm just going to check what we have on TikTok. Google is underrated, yeah. So I think people are waking up to the fact that Google's AI is really good. The problem with the Google ecosystem, they've always had this, is they have too many products. Like that vibe coding tool, for example. AI Studio is one tool, They have Opal, Gemini Code Assist. It makes it very tricky to keep track of everything. They have almost like competing teams. It's hard to explain to people, oh, you should try this new Google tool, because it's confusing and they're hard to find, they're marketed poorly, and they just keep putting more and more things out. Some of them like bubble to the surface, like Nano Banana. It had its moment and everyone was, oh wow, Nano Banana is amazing. But for the rest of these tools, they have some really good things, but they are hidden because there is so much other stuff, and Google is not very good at surfacing them, unfortunately, which is a shame because what they're building is very cool. That's half an hour. So I'm going to finish up. As you can probably tell, I'm on holiday. I'm not at home. I'll show you. If you're on YouTube, I'll spin my camera around. There we go. I'm in the countryside. Thankfully, I have enough internet to be able to do this. Stupid, I shouldn't have spun my camera. Now I'm not centered. But I'm going to be continuing to do these daily news updates every single morning, just keeping us up to date. Apologies for the deterioration in camera quality, the fact that I'm having to lean over things, but it is still amazing that in this cabin in the middle of nowhere, I can still live stream globally and produce YouTube videos, which is something worth stopping and pausing and remembering. Like, that's cool. So thank you for your patience, and I'll be back in London next week. If you are not subscribed, there's a newsletter which comes out every single day, which is a written summary of what we have covered in the live. It's free and you can find it in the link in my bio. Also make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. I think we're about to hit 8,000 followers. Any support there is much appreciated. We're pushing towards 10,000. I'm hoping to get there before the end of the year. That is the hope and the dream. So make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter and to the YouTube channel. I'll be back with another live of the news. Thank you so much, everybody, and talk soon.